Mina Valentine. Mina, how are you? And we're going to talk about the history of romance novels today. And really, Mina, it's something that's quite interesting. Wouldn't you agree? Because how did romance novels start?
I think romance novels have been around since the dawn of time. Um, if you think about it, in the 1500s, Shakespeare wrote those kind of, not necessarily romance, but he did write love stories. And then um, Jane Austen, she wrote romance novels. Charlotte Bronte, hers uh, were not necessarily romance, but love stories. But I mean, they've always been around. And the thing that we see as we go through time is how the romance novel evolves. And another thing I think is interesting is you take somebody like myself that's in now the 21st century and is researching and writing about the 18th century. We have a lot of there's a significant amount of readers that are interested in that era, not just for the romance of it, but for that era as a whole. Writing in the coach, the protocols, the niceties, those kind of things. People romanticize about. In reality, they weren't really that swift, but um, and um, as I've said many times, and we've talked about, sex was a lot more prevalent than it lets on in some of these romance novels, but they didn't have television. There wasn't a whole lot to do.
And what do you think? Like you said, that it was the love letters and everything. But when you think about, particularly enough, not love letters, let's talk about specifically why they started writing books and really to appeal to female readers. Was that frowned upon at first?
Uh,
Something like that?
if you think about, um, let's just take Shakespeare. He did a lot of, and you could write, men and women could read Shakespeare. There was nothing wrong with that. But romance novels that were made specifically for women, um, Jane Austen, if a woman was found with a Jane Austen book, she was kind of really, really. um, but the romance, it just depends. Shakespeare was a man. He wrote a lot of love stories, romance stories. I mean, Romeo and Juliet is one of the most prolific love stories ever. It's been duplicated in any number of forms. It's not a romance; it's a love story. It's not a happy ending. Um, but there are other stories that were written. Sheldon was his name, and he wrote plays in the 1700s. And he wrote a lot of farces, satiricals, but they were often romances from a satirical point of view. It was a man that wrote them. Um, but Jane Austen, for a long time, she wrote under a pseudonym because women weren't even supposed to write back then. There were eras when that was not acceptable.
Very
Stupid.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's so true.
Yeah.
I mean, and so men were writing romance. How would they know what women want?
Well, think I think if a man is experienced, he probably knows what a woman
Yeah,
wants.
but the way they want to hear it visually and auditorily, it'd be really weird if he's writing like a woman.
Um, you know, some of the most poignant love stories and love poems and those kind of things that were written by men. Um, so it's difficult to say we all want to be loved and we all have the same kind of desire in the same kind of way. Um, what drives us may be a little bit different, you know. Um, maybe I want a book, but the next girl wants flowers. You know, so we're not all etched in stone, but the main thing is that the person in love with you makes the effort to try and recognize you as a person and what you want, what you need, and be able to give that to them. And I don't know that that is necessarily a sex specific. Um, even take sex. Um, we all kind of know how that works. Men, if they're not considering the woman, then they don't care about her. Um, you have to make sure that she's taken care of. Um, and the other interesting thing when you talk about it is anatomically, um, the clitoris is the only part of the body that has no other function rather than pleasure. That's it. I mean, every other part of the anatomy on a man has multiple functions for reproduction. But the clitoris is strictly there for.
Let's see. She's going, she's trying to, she's definitely some dropping some gems involving that in this podcast for the romance fans. And you're looking for guests. And that's going to be interesting where I'm sitting here listening to you of why you guys write romance novels. And it will happen. But everyone needs to go to minavalentine.com right now. You can pick up her books there. And book
Yeah,
4 is coming soon.
yes, it's the cover. You know, this was a problem we had with book three, the cover. So if my artist doesn't
Well,
get on,
you already see we can do all this stuff with
yes,
our imagination.
right. So
All
if she doesn't get off her paints.
right, we'll see. We can paint by numbers. All right, MinaValentine.com. Appreciate it, Mina. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
All right,
I'll
you're listening and
see you.
watching.